My name is Jamin Gurker. I am your first friend in Alaska, and I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that I actually get quite a few guys reach out to me to ask, and that is, how do I talk my wife into moving to Alaska? So I'm going to be making that video for y'all today, and I'm sure quite a few women are going to be watching this too, like also trying to see what the playbook is. So we'll be getting into all of that in just a little bit here. Before we get started though, give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Now let's go ahead and jump into today's video. Now the first thing that I want to say is, when you are looking at trying to talk your wife or spouse, we'll say the other way too. This might be a wife trying to talk her husband into moving up here as well, but usually it's the other way around. But if you're trying to talk your spouse into moving to Alaska, the thing to keep in mind is your relationship is more important than moving to a specific place, because some people get so tunnel visioned that it actually does, trying to move up here actually does hurt their relationship. And Alaska's beautiful. It's not worth sacrificing somebody's relationship and marriage, or damage. You know what? We'll say damaging it. I want to say by the time that you're looking at breaking up with someone, just over moving somewhere, there's probably some other problems going on in that relationship. So I'm not going to lay that all at Alaska's feet, but it's not worth putting a ton of strain on the relationship just to move up here, is what I'm going to say. So that relationship is priority number one. But if you're trying to play the long game and trying to talk someone into moving up here when you know they're going to love it once they actually get up here, and that's the big thing, you can't just hoodwink them. Now they're up here, now they can't go, and now it sucks. Like, you want to make sure that your spouse, your wife, is going to be happy once she actually does get up here. And if that's not the case, then it may or may not be a good fit long term for y'all. But we'll talk about some ways that strategies that you can use to start trying to talk her into moving up here. Number one, do not lead with these little off-grid YouTube channels and reality TV shows. Those are 100% unrealistic, and for most women, it's just not the thing that they're really going to want to go and do. Now, there might be some sustainable off-grid living, sustainability living, all that. You might get some of those, and obviously there's still going to be women who like living off-grid. Yeah, we're talking in generalizations here. We all know there's exceptions. Don't point the one exception to me and say this is all off. These are generalizations. Usually women do not like the whole off-grid living thing. Okay, so know your wife, and if it's just not the realistic reality of being up here. So try to make sure you don't lead with that. Number one, because it may or may not land. And number two, it's just not a realistic picture for what the average lifestyle is like living up here. Number two, if you're trying to get her to live up here, maybe talk her into living up here by avoiding certain large cities that have a reputation for having a really high crime rate. If you're married to someone who's very safety conscious, then it might be a really good idea to just say, okay, well, you pick like 2-3 cities we're not going to live in because of the crime, and those are off the list. Try something like that. That actually might work. Another thing that you need to do is come up here during the summertime or the wintertime and actually spend some time in an Airbnb, just to get a sense for what it's like actually living in the specific community that you're going to be looking at. Because when you come up here and then you go stay in like a hotel or like a hotel resort or something like that, you're not really getting the experience of living up here. And that's really what you want to find as you're coming up here. You're not trying to play tourist. If you're visiting up here, you are trying to envision yourself living here, and you can't really get that from staying at a hotel. Now, on that thought, when you're coming up here, if you do get the opportunity to come up during the summertime and the wintertime, which that's preferable that you get to do both, just emphasize with her ahead of time and set the expectation. Hey, we're showing up, let's just say in wintertime, we're showing up in wintertime, and we're not having the ability to acclimate like we would have if we'd lived there for since the summertime. Because when it's summertime, you're here, you acclimate, and then you go into wintertime and you slowly ease into the winter. Whereas if you are just flying up here during the summer or during the winter time, it is just instantly, it's cold and there's zero acclimating time. So if she's deciding she's absolutely going to hate it right from the jump, then she's already has that kind of set in her mind. And then getting here with it being super cold and that not being the expectation that she's not acclimated, and that's going to be an instant turnoff. So just make sure the expectation is there. Hey, you're going to acclimate. It's still going to be cold when we've been here for about a year or so, but it's not going to be as cold because you will have had an entire season to acclimate. Even people who are here, living here now, if you went from us in the summertime and just threw us into like, -20 during the wintertime, that would rock our world too, okay? So just make sure that expectation is there. The next thing I would say is really make sure that you understand Alaska and the specific area it is that you're wanting to move into so that you can answer the questions that she has as they inevitably do come up. So you want to be able to show that you've done your research, you know what you're talking about. You don't have to have all the answers, but just make sure you know enough to where it really shows that you're on top of it, you've put a lot of thought into it, and this is not a spur of the moment thing. And it really does, it's probably going to go a lot further than if she asks a question and you just have no clue. So anticipate what she's going to ask and do the research. Do some of your research as though, pretend you're her and do the research, trying to answer the questions she's going to ask. All right, we're going to get to the rest of the video in just a minute. Before we do, though, let's go ahead and take a quick break here. If you are seriously considering moving to Alaska and still trying to gather as much information as possible, do feel free to reach out to me on my website and register there so I can send you a copy of my relocation guide. Just make sure in the little comment section you put relocation guide so I know what to send you. Now, let's go and finish up today's video. Now, another really big piece of advice I would give husbands that are trying to talk their wives into moving up here is let Alaska do the heavy lifting for you, okay? Alaska is absolutely beautiful, and for the people that are going to be allured here by its beauty, it's not going to need any extra help from you, okay? Like maybe send like some extra pictures of drone footage and all that, which, go check out my Instagram. I've got tons of drone footage on there with reels I created using drone footage from Alaska, the area around which I live. So use that, I guess, as a tool. But part of the strategy is just giving a slow ramping up of just sending information and pictures of the place. And that kind of gets people, it's almost like a psyop that's being run. This is actually something my younger brother actually did on myself and a couple other brothers when he was trying to get us to come up here. He just started sending us like all the Alaska pictures. And believe it or not, that is pretty effective. If you have someone that's kind of on the fence, kind of a slow drip like that is going to do a lot more, have a lot more of an effect than you would think. So yes, kind of a slow indoctrination almost, and just be sending the pictures and everything. And yeah, that's going to help. Moving on. Another really big thing, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you will notice in my videos, I don't downplay the negative aspects of living here. I don't hide from them. I don't try to like spin them in like this good salesman way. No, I'll tell you, the suicide rate is high. The winters are cold and dark, and if you're susceptible to depression, that's going to be something you have to look out for. And the crime rates are going to be high. Now, there are ways you can minimize each one of these negative aspects to the point where it's pretty manageable. But your thing you need to focus on is acknowledging them, being upfront about them, and not trying to hide them, because there are no secrets here. Eventually, everything's going to become very clear, and you want to make sure that you are the person that, had a lot of integrity and honesty from the start to the finish, okay? So just make sure nobody feels tricked by the time they get up here. Last but not least, I would say probably one of the most important things you can do is if you're trying to talk your wife into moving up here, you want to make this an adventure for the family. And this isn't just, oh, dad wants to move to Alaska. Like try try your hardest to try to get this to be an adventure for the family. And it's not just, we got to do this because this is what, my husband or what dad wants to do. So make it an adventure for the entire family. Find ways to actually make that happen, and find the things that are going to be appealing to everyone in your family and not just you. Okay, you might really be into four-wheeling and hunting, and that's great. It may or may not be the jam for everyone in your family, but they might really be into kayaking or hiking or any number of things. So just, I guess, know your audience, and don't just turn this into your own little adventure. Make sure you bring your family along with you mentally and emotionally. But this has been my video kind of talking about how to potentially talk your wife or spouse into moving up here. I hope it's been really useful. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time.